Uh, I want to look at a question from November of 2007, stoichiometry. Although for this question, it's a fair game if you have it at end of the 2-year program. You need a little bit of periodicity, periodic table, and also your charges and ionic bonding. You have 0.502 grams of an alkali metal sulfate. Now this is the only challenge part. If you know what the alkali is, which is group 1, and if you know they're 1 plus, and what is sulfate, which is SO4 2 minus, you're almost there and you can solve this problem. Otherwise, you have to hold on until you have a little bit more information about periodic table. Is dissolved in water, barium chloride is added, a precipitate of barium sulfate is formed, and this is mass of your precipitate. So I want to go back to my alkali metal. It's let it be element X, and it's 1 plus because it's group 1, and your sulfate is SO4 2 minus. Now you either learn as crisscross or switching the charges, and you will get X subscript 2 SO4. And eventually you're going to be challenged, what is X? What is identity of X? First question is easy. Calculate moles of barium sulfate. You have the grams and you can find your molar mass. So we are looking for moles, which is mass divided by molar mass. Now molar mass of barium sulfate, you have 1 barium, you have 1 sulfur and 4 oxygen, so it's 137.34 for barium plus 32.06 grams for sulfur plus 4 times 16 for oxygen. And you will get 233.40 grams per mole. Now let's find moles. Moles is our mass, which the mass is 0.672 grams, divided by our molar mass, which is 233.40 grams per mole. Once you do this division, you will come to answer of 0.00288 moles, or you can write it in scientific notation as 2.88 times 10 to minus 3 moles. Now the most difficult part of this question is this: determine the amount of alkali metal sulfate, of course in moles. How do I know that? What should I do? All my sulfate comes from X2SO4. So whatever I have moles of BaSO4 is same as SO4, and it should be also moles of X2SO4. So the moles is exactly as is, and this to me is difficult for students to come up with. So moles of alkali metal sulfate, I call it X2SO4, is same as moles of barium sulfate, and it's the same number, 2.88 times 10 to minus 3 moles. Now, if you have that number, then determine molar mass of the alkali metal. Molar mass is nothing but mass divided by moles. I have the moles from this question, and the mass of alkali metal, I go to the question, 0.502. 0.502 grams of this divided by moles. When you do this, you come to the answer of 174.3 grams per mole. Then the next part of the question is deduce the identity of alkali metal, showing you're working for 2 points. This is the molar mass. So the molar mass of X2SO4 is 174.3, which is equal to 2 times atomic mass of X plus 1 sulfur plus 4 oxygen, 4 times 16. When you do all this, X happens to be 39.1 grams per mole. If you now go to the periodic table, you find out X is nothing but potassium K. So this is your element that they're looking for. Now the final answer is, if you were successful with this, solve the equation. So you have the alkali metal sulfate, which happens to be K2SO4, aqueous, added to barium chloride, aqueous, Excess is not important, but it's excess amount. It will give you a precipitate or a solid barium sulfate, and it will give you 2 potassium chloride aqueous. And they want the state symbols, meaning that since they told you precipitate is barium sulfate, they want to see S. The rest should be in aqueous because those are ionic and soluble.